Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's Road to Cheltenham. Gary O'Brien standing in for Lydia Hislop this week, but it's an unchanged lineup apart from that. You'll be glad to hear I've got Ruby Walsh alongside me. How are you, sir?
Good, Gary, yourself?
Excellent, very well indeed. And of course, Josh Stacey, comfortably the tallest member of the studio team tonight, is going to be with us as well. And Josh, good to see you. We're going to start with you because it's been a busy few days, under 4 weeks to the festival now. A lot of news coming out in recent days, media yard visits, etc. What have you got for us?
Every bit of information is being jumped on, Gary. It's great to have you on the show. Yes, in Ireland there's been press tours this week. We had Barry Connell, we had Gordon Elliott, we had Willie Mullins. At Mighty Park, all the rage. We've only seen him once in a Maiden Hurdle, and I mean, Ruby, you're very sweet on him as well. Not sure where he's going to go, Supreme or Turners, but plenty of people clearly think a lot of the horse.
His performance when he beat Mococo, and Mococo went to Thurles and ran really well behind El Kairos. The El Kairos beat him comfortably, but Mighty Park destroyed him at Fairyhouse. And look, I'm not sure which race he's going to go to, but he looks like a horse with huge potential. That said, horses with one run over hurdles do have average enough records in the Supreme.
They do. There's also been lots of reaction online. Gaelic Warrior now into favouritism for the Ryanair after hints that Factifile might be supplemented for the Gold Cup, and plenty of punters thinking that he could be a penalty kick in the Ryanair if he was to run there. So that's quite interesting.
Sounds like Patrick wants to ride him in the Gold Cup.
It does, doesn't it? It does, but even look, we'll look at it later as we try and figure out how many runners there will be in races, but it doesn't look a strong renewal of a Ryanair, and for either Factifile or Gallopin de Champs, you'd have to think you're leaving a race behind with one of them if you don't.
You think it'll be just one of them in the Ryanair, though?
I think it'll just be one, yeah. But I think look, maybe both will want to go for the Gold Cup, but either or will be very short in the Ryanair.
Absolutely. Over here, Nicky Henderson has a mare, a novice hurdling mare called Charisma, owned by JP McManus, finished second to Jubilee Alpha last year, and was 3/4 of a length behind Cashledale Lad at Punchestown. Rated 127, needs one more run to get into a handicap. Plenty of the roadies are latching onto her. Needs one more run in at Lingfield on Monday, Market Raisin on Tuesday, and Ludlow on Wednesday. So she's interesting. And then there's obviously always lots of talk about Kopek de Bord. Lulamba was very impressive.
The more he's talked about, isn't it?
Yeah, the less he runs, the more he is talked about. And I actually caught up with David McCarthy from the McCarthy family, who own Kopek de Bord, just to see what they're thinking of Lulamba.
Lulamba is a worthy favourite of the article. Like, he actually, like, you know, when you don't understand how he's not short on the market, like, he's won great races, he's a classy horse, a very well thought for the horse as well. Nicky Henderson has a great strike rate in the article. So the only thing that's not going for Lamba is the strike rate of 5-year-olds in the article. I think they're 0 to 17 in the article. But then again, like, there's a lot of other good horses in the article too, like you've Irish Panda, like, who deserves to be there. You crap on a Christmas. You have Romeo Coolio, multiple Grade 1 winner again, and he'll be there. Cargis is going to be there. Like, I would say they're the top 5 in the market. It's a pity the 2.5 mile race really isn't at Cheltenham anymore, because if it was there, you'd wonder, would Lulamba and Romeo Coolio be going for the article? Would it be down to those three horses? Like, Lulamba stays all day, and you can see it from what he's been doing in these races. I just think maybe we have that bit more speed than he is, and he has that bit more staying than we do. That's the only thing I could say, really. The way I see it is, yeah, it's definitely a negative that we don't have that chasing experience, but I would imagine that Willie and Co will do as much as they can at home to get him to where he needs to be.
Great, just to watch that race again. Ruby, as I say, a lot of talk about Kopek de Bord. Sounds like things are going really well with him in the run-up to Cheltenham now, which we didn't necessarily feel was the case a while back. Yeah, are you happy?
Yeah, he seems to be in good nick. I was in Punchestown and watched him last week. He went around nicely. Didn't look like a race to me now, but he went around nicely. And
when you say it didn't look like a race, could you have done more to recreate race conditions?
I think Danny felt like it was a race riding Imperial Pass, but Imperial Pass now without cheap pieces wouldn't blow you away. And yeah, he went around well, but I think he'll have to do a bit more, and he's going the right direction, but he still has to improve a bit.
Connections understandably bullish though, Josh. They've got a hell of a horse if he's right, haven't they?
Yeah, and it is interesting. David mentions that 5-year-olds since 2008, I think he was referring to when the weight allowances changed, are 0 from 17. So that is something that you have to factor in. But
for Lulamba, yeah, it is. And they got used to get £5. They don't get it anymore. And there hasn't been a 5-year-old winner since. Cougar was second. I think Fairalong might have been second. But yeah, it is. Fairalong might have had the allowance even, but Cougar didn't. I don't know, probably has proven that maybe 5-year-olds do need some sort of an allowance.
He's got a mention already. I was in Willie's the other day as well, Ruby. Mighty Park. I wasn't in Willie's, we were in the Bagnall actually. Late change of plan. But Mighty Park seems to be a horse on everyone's lips. Are you liking what you're seeing?
Yeah, he would catch your eye. He does it well. He did it well at Fairyhouse. But I'd nearly be more worried about. I think good horse with one run have struggled in the Supreme. I think 5 for 3 definitely. He only had one run. He won a Turner's. Maybe he'll go that way. I don't know. I've never sat on him. I'd say whatever Mark Walsh thinks now would ultimately decide where he goes.
Well, we're delighted to have you, Gary, on the road
here, Josh. I don't like the sound of this.
And our roadies have been chucking in plenty of questions for you. So if you don't mind, we're going to quickly fire some at you.
I did get a little heads up this might be on the cards. Go on.
Plenty of them around the Cheltenham Festival. Plenty of people wanting to pick your brains, especially about niche horses as well that they quite fancy. I think they're hoping that you'll give them the nod.
Do my best.
As well. Adam says, who will Jack Kennedy ride in the Turners if both Ballyfad and Scarlight Hustle turn up?
I think he might ride Ballyfad, mainly because he's had one less run over hurdles. I mean, they're both point-to-point winners. They'd both be stepping up and tripping the Turners. Maybe Ballyfad might just be open to that little bit more improvement.
So you think he's probably got the best chance of those two?
I think I would, yeah. He'd actually be very high on my list to win it.
Ruby, do you agree about those two?
I do, but I'm just thinking about what Jack said. So when Talk to Talk fell at Christmas, Jack was adamant Skylight Hustle wasn't.
Jockeys always say that.
And then Talk to Talk goes and beats Ballyfad. So you'll get the proof of whether he was really believed at Christmas that Skylight Hustle was going to win or not. You'll get that decision when he picks one or the other. And
this is going to be a big decision to make for Jack if both of them turn up, obviously. David Brown says, Gary, what do you think? Which race do you think Dr. Steinberg should run in at Cheltenham? Now, there's talk that we've got the Turners because he was quite free at Leopardstown when he won, but he looked to me like stamina was his forte. And
I suppose if you look at the prices as well, he's about a 10-to-1 shot for the Turners, about a 3-to-1 favourite for the Albert Bartlett. I suppose that would funnel you more to the Albert Bartlett. But Willie, speaking to him in the last couple of days, he does seem to have a real concern about him perhaps being a touch free in the Turners. Do you share that in the Albert Bartlett?
I probably don't. He bounced out upsides in Leopardstown, and we had this discussion the other morning, so Willie knows my opinion, but I think they were going 2 miles an hour, well, not quite 2 miles an hour, but they were crawling at the DRF. And I think in an Albert Bartlett with a bigger field, stronger pace, and a bit of cover, I think you could switch him off. Personally, that was my opinion. We didn't make up his own mind.
And we are expecting a big field in the Albert Bartlett. More about that a little bit later. Yeah, if he's going along those lines, I think, as I say, it looks the weaker race of the two, even though it's probably going to be a bigger field. I think that's what way I'd go.
On the topic of novice hurdles, Simon says, what is Gary's Supreme Turners and Albert Bartlett horses? No pressure.
The Albert Bartlett will keep up my sleeves a little bit later on in the programme. We've all been asked to come up with a lucky 15, and actually my Albert Bartlett horse is in that, so we'll keep that for now. The Turners, I probably would just about go with Ballyfad at this stage. Open enough race, very respectful of no drama this end. I wouldn't have much between those two. And the Supreme, without any great confidence, it looks a really good race. Old Park Star, I think, is the percentage call, but that would be a little bit watery, as we'd say at home.
Is that because he's just done more than others? So
yeah, I mean, I think El Kairos is potentially a hell of a good horse, but you couldn't really suggest backing him at the price he is when he's just won a Maiden Hurdle at Thurles. Fair enough, he was going to win at Leopardstown when he fell, but Old Park Star's achieved an awful lot more.
Well, we're getting closer to the festival, and that means that handicaps will start to be spoken about. Jason says, what are Gary's thoughts on the handicap tax when the Irish receive, especially after mentioning the Wall Park was dropped to 142 over in Ireland? I know you're going to talk about him later, but what do you think about the Irish tax, and would you simply just wait until we know what they're going to get over here before getting involved, or do you have to half-second guess what it's going to be?
I think I would be inclined to wait, Josh, yeah, and that's always been my frustration with it, that we don't know. I know the British handicappers keep their own handicapper performance ratings for these horses, but we don't tend to see them, or don't get to see them until the horses are entered for these races. So that's a little bit frustrating. It would be nice if they were published in advance, whereas the situation now is you either have to enter a horse or else email the handicapper or ring them up and hope that they give you the answer you're looking for. So Yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect system. I thought maybe it could have been sorted out a little bit better by now, but in terms of having a bet in the handicap, I'd definitely be holding fire, unless you maybe see an angle. You mentioned the wall park there. If you think the wall park is going to be too high for the ceiling in some of those handicaps, maybe have a look at something in one or two of those that you know definitely will get a run.
I suppose with something like the Wall Park, punters are trying to get in early, so if he does get 145 or less, they probably got the fancy prices if they get involved now. Fascinating to see.
They want the ante-post, but they don't want the risk.
They don't want the risk, exactly. Johnny says, what's Gary's opinion on the Naas Ballymore form? I think this is interesting because I'll sort that and Sortido ran a good race that day, but it seems to be slightly forgotten since the Dublin Racing Festival.
It was a tough battle between those two horses that day. I mean, the winner is one of the toughest horses around, wears his heart in his sleeve, goes off in front. I've a lot of time for him. He's had some bruising battles, but he has had a nice break since the Naas race as well, so I'd be respectful of him wherever he goes. I suppose when he's won a grade one in and around that sort of distance, the Turners would look the obvious fit for him. I just worry maybe you're going to get horses who've been running in 2 mile grade ones stepping up in trip for the Turners, Ballyfad being one, Skylight Hustle another potentially, and I just wonder whether he might be vulnerable to those, but he's well worth his place in the lineup, and I don't know what you think about Sortudo.
You go up and trip at him. I'd start that.
I think he'd get the trip fine, but I just worry a big field in the Albert Bartlett, the way he runs, he'd surely get a lot of pressure on the front end, whether that maybe might just count against him.
I'd just be worried about him jumping. I think he can miss, especially late on, and I think the 2 hurdles being out on Naas were absolutely key to him. I think he has endless stamina. I think he's a very good horse. He's not unlike Jasmine DeVoe. I think he'd be tailor-made going a bit further.
Is Sortudo being overlooked?
What trip does he want? He looks like he's a stayer, and then he didn't look like he quite got home or got outstayed by Declan Gready's horse at Naas. Don't know, has he been overlooked? But I wouldn't be sure which race he'd end up in. I know there's plenty of debate about him now at the moment.
Final question for you, Gary. If Factifile goes the Gold Cup route, do you think that Jaguar could go down the Ryanair route instead of handicaps? John Bond would be JP's only hope, and he's far from a good thing, so he might want reinforcements.
Maybe might have a different answer depending on what happens with John Bond at the weekend, Josh, but I'd be surprised. I would have thought he's gone very close to winning a handicap on his last run. He's only gone up £3 on the back of it. Obviously, the owner's punch on is for handicaps before they go into graded company. They were 10 lengths clear of the third last time as well. I wouldn't even be shocked if they stepped him up in distance, try and eke out a little bit more improvements, and even if he ended up with top weight, there's some good claimers out there that you could use maybe to take a few pounds off as well. So that's my thoughts on that one. Before we let you go, we're going to turn it back on you now. I mentioned that we've all been given the task of coming up with a lucky 15 for this year's festival. Ruby and me are holding fire till later on, but you're going to walk the plank first. What have you gone for? Talk us through these 4 luminaries of the turf.
I mean, I am sure that the Road to Cheltenham viewers are not looking forward to the 4 horses that I'm about to put up and are probably going to be
We have got a bit of crossover. I'll just give a little bit of a view for later, yes.
Okay. I put up 4. The first one is Keep Him Company in the Champion Bumper. Now, he says, it does say 9 to 1 on there. You can get bigger prices with other firms, but I quite like him. We last saw him win at Christmas at Leopardstown for Gordon Elliott under Josh Williamson, and Royal Hillsborough was 8 lengths behind that day, and he was giving her £9. I think she was unlucky not to win the Grade 2 at the Dublin Racing Festival. She was only 6.5 lengths behind Old School Outlaw on that previous start, and that was off level weight. Gordon had the 1, 2, 3 in the DRF bumper, and I think he said that Keep Him Company is the best of those, so I think that he's got a chance and is a fair price. Bambino Fever in the Dawn Run Mares Novice. I thought that she was beaten by a race-fit Old School Outlaw. I think she could reverse that at Cheltenham. She likes Cheltenham, we know that, that's important, and she's ground versatile. And then 2 slightly bigger prices at the end. Supremely West for the Skeltons in the Pertemps, 10 to 1. The form of the October Pertemps qualifier is unbelievable. The winner was Marchand 2, won by 5 lengths, 5 lengths ahead of Supremely West. Rated 129 that day, now rated 154. And not a favourite, but a chance in the Stayers Hurdle. The second was Electric Mason, who finished 2 lengths behind him. Was rated 128 that day, now rated 139 after winning the staying handicap hurdle at Haydock. Supremely West 137, dropped £2 to 135. I think the Skeltons have a big day planned for him. I think he's very interesting. Then the last one, I'm still keeping the faith with Only by Night. We've not seen her since.
That's the worry for me. I would have had her very, very high on my list for this. Just wonder why she didn't run at the DRF.
Yeah, I was worried about it as well. She split Django by and Majborough in the Arkle last year. It was clearly good form. Lurdesud was fourth. Beat Champ Kylie on return in the Barberstown over 2 miles. I think people are saying that she might just be a 2-miler. But I'm not completely convinced. I think she's got the class in that race, and that might be good enough. There are proven stayers, but I think she's the one in Mare's company that's slightly untapped when it comes to her absolute best. And she was hampered by Marine Nationale. She was. I think you can draw a line through that run at Christmas. So they're my 4.
Excellent. Do you approve?
Only by Night won't get the trip in a horse box.
Really?
Yeah.
She's not winning point to point?
You know, best horse you can get any trip, and she did win over further the Mare's Chase, which was her least impressive performance. She looked a different mare when she came back down to 2 miles.
Happy with the other 3?
Yeah, I think the Supreme US one's a good find. That form, when you start talking about it in the ratings of the horses that beat him now, it sticks out like a mile, doesn't it?
Well, might have 3 winners.
That'd do. Wouldn't be a bad return. Josh, as ever, thanks for your time. Good luck. You're off the hook now. I'll let you go. When you rejoin us, it'll be Ruby and myself going through some of the top performances of the last week or so in our review section.
One I'm most adamant about, and I might look like an absolute idiot, Dr. Steinberg.
Albert Bartlett.
Steinberg, Albert Bartlett, I'd be completely against him. Now, I just think that it was absolute rubbish myself. I saw one of my friends there text me saying Kazansky for the Martin Pipe, and I was like, nah, I just don't think that form is worth anything. Now, maybe I could be completely wrong, but I got that feeling the race was no use, and even the way he won, being a bit keen, I think it was a very bad race, and if he does that in the Albert Bartlett, he would no chance.
Welcome back. Just myself and Ruby now to steer the ship for the remainder of this week's show. And just before we look back on some of the top performances from the last week, we're going to just check out some of the fallout from the latest scratching stage and entry stage for the Cheltenham Festival contest. And we've done up a little graphic for you here, just showing the number of entries for some of these marquee races in 2026 compared to last year. Anything in particular strike you about those numbers, Ruby?
I think it's good to see more in the Champion Hurdle. Mares only quite similar. Big drop in the stairs, 2 less in the Champion Chase. Ryanair's down. Gold Cup almost double, 15 to 28. That's brilliant. And the novices then do stick out. The Supreme, the Turners are both up. The Arkle is up. The Brown Advisory is up at this stage. So is the Albert Bartlett and the Triumph. So if the bottom races aren't up there on that list, like the likes of the Supreme, the Turners, the Arkle, all those novices, if they're not up, you won't get the other races up next year or the year after. So I do think it's a positive, those bottom figures.
We had a little game earlier on before we came on air. We were trying to predict the field sizes for some of these races. We were quite far apart with a few of them, I think it's fair to say.
We started at the beginning, so there's 45 left in the Supreme. How many do you think will end up lining up?
I had 12 or 13. You had?
18, 19.
Okay.
Arkle.
7 or 8 for me.
I think there could be 11 runners.
Okay.
Champion Hurdle.
Champion Hurdle, I went 7 or 8.
I think 8 as well. I think that'll be a small field. The Turners are 72 in it. Go on.
15 or 16, I thought. Looks open.
I think they'll ballot. I think they'll fill.
Okay,
22.
that'd be great. Albert Bartlett, you thought it'd be a maximum field as well. One where we were miles apart was the Mare's Novice Hurdle. I just thought the top 2 maybe standing out a long way above the rest at this stage might frighten a few off. I had 14 or 15.
I was up near 20 on that one. I think the Triumph will get a big field as well. There's 49 left in it. I wouldn't be surprised if that's back up near the maximum, 21 or 2 in or around there. And I think we both got a pretty high number for a Gold Cup as well, Gary. I was 13, 14. 12
or 13 I had, yeah.
It'll be a good field in the Gold Cup as well. So I think field sizes, obviously the changes to the handicap hurdles with the 5 runs, I think it seems to be washing out a little bit in the novice hurdles. I think there's horses there that even Sober Glory with 4 starts may well have gone off down the handicap route without having the option of if he had the option, but he doesn't have it.
And even with the real change, Willie Mullins could have every bit as high a number of runners in the Triumph this year.
He could, yeah. He could have 9 or 10. So he could, and maybe 1 or 2 then that the English trainers got choked out, might go to Suddle and take on Constitution Hill instead.
Okay, there weren't too many high-profile scratchings from the latest forfeit stage. El Fabiolo has been taken out. Guess that wasn't a huge shock after his defeat at Leopardstown. And Active Innocence came out of the Supreme as well, Ruby. Anything else strike you?
No massive surprise maybe. El Fabiolo was run over in the Irish Champion Hurdle, the DRF, and Active Innocence did look like he improved at Huntington in the Rossington Main, is it?
The Sydney Banks.
Sydney Banks, sorry.
We'll come into that in just a second.
It looked like he improved when he went there, and you can see why he's going that distance. Nicky's nailed his colours to the mast, hasn't he?
He has, and he's teed it up nicely. Let's check out Active Innocence's win in the Sydney Banks. His race has been good to Nicky Henderson over the years. He was talking about how much he likes it after the horse had won. It was very, very authoritative, very straightforward. Were you taken by him?
I thought it was a decent performance. I'm not sure the strength of the depth in the race. Sinatra booked out, Glance of Midnight sat second. Nico was intent on sitting wide. Did flick his ears quite a bit going to his hurdles. Like, he was always looking at what he was doing. Active Innocence, it was a decent gallop without going mad. He came out of Nico's hands at the second last with a circuit to go. But Nico always kept him right there. He was no doubt about his stamina. He didn't overcomplicate it on him. Sinatra was trying to stretch it across to the third last, but he got dropped off the bend when Glance of Midnight went by, and then Active Innocence took over, and he got a feeling he was just playing with these down the straight, Gary, that there was a lot more under the bonnet than he was giving. Nico has a good look at the last when he pricks his ears as he's from a long way back. It's not the last stride and jumps it really well, but look, he has to step up on that. The trip will suit him at Cheltenham, but I don't know. Would you fancy him as a Turner's winner?
I'll give him an each way chance. I'd have 2 or 3 above him on the list, though. Then again, the betting says the same, doesn't it?
Yeah, betting says the same. I think that's just about right myself. I think he'll run a good race, but he's definitely the second string for connections in the novice hurdle bracket anyway.
One horse who impressed a lot of people at the weekend was Sober Glory, who won a novice hurdle at Newbury in effortless fashion, really, under Harry Cobden. And looks as though the Supreme is going to be an export of call for him. He looks well worth taking his chance in that race, Ruby. Bar one eclipse this season when he was ridden a bit differently. He seems to be going from strength to strength. His
whole career is, Gary. I mean, he's 3 from 3 in bumpers, 3 from 4 in novice hurdles, as you've said, that run in Sandown, which is pretty much unexplainable. He was dropped in, maybe he didn't like that, but like, even he was well bought by Tom Malone. He was 110,000 after winning a May point to point at Bartlemy, which wouldn't float everybody's boat. But I'll tell you one thing, they turned a fair profit on him this evening if they wanted to.
I suppose he's going to face a bit more pressure ridden that way in the Supreme Novice Hurdle. Do you think he's still going to be a big player? I
think he will be. I mean, he'll jump. There'll be a big rush down to the first, what I think will be a big, decent-sized field, but it'll settle down then. And the way he opened up from the road crossing at Newbury into the back straight, and the speed he went all the way down the back, he'll put a lot of horses under pressure, and that'll test the jumping of the likes of Talk to Talk and El Kairos. It'll suit My Daddy Paddy, who'll be coming from well off the pace. Mighty Park is a strong traveller. Idaho's Son, he is, to me, definitely value each way at 14 to 1 in the Supreme Sober Glory. I think he's a really good horse. I thought Leader Dahlia came home well at Punchestown when he won. King Rascal Grey. I think it's a really good Supreme.
It looks it, doesn't it? Hopefully they all get there and we have a race to savour. We're going back to Thurles a week ago now to see a Willie Mullins horse winning a maiden hurdle called, well, I hope he's called Laureate d'Estraval, something along those lines. Anyway, Laureate d'Estraval, perhaps. This was over 2 miles in all 3 novice hurdles at the Cheltenham Festival in typical Willie Mullins fashion. Any idea where he might go and how taken were you with him?
I'd be surprised if he went short. I think he'll be going middle to middle. I would have thought Laureate d'Estraval. He had plenty of experience. He's professional. Paul booked him out in front in Thurles last week. Jumped the first really well. Danny sat beside him and jet to Monte Carlo. Pinged the second. But you could see that the experience from France in him. He's quick, slick, and just over the top of the hurdle. Doesn't waste any time in the air. This is the third last hurdle. He was always travelling well. Did get a little bit high maybe here at the second last, which is fractionally downhill. But I like the way he quickened to the road. And you almost got the feeling that Paul was having a little feeler here as well. Because when he jumps the last, this race is as good as over. But Paul dips him just to see what's under the bonnet. And he does quicken up and pulls away to win what wasn't an outstanding contest. But he galloped to the line and he galloped strong. I would have thought he'd go up and trip, and at a big price might be an each-way player in a Turner's.
Just with that knee action, is he always going to need a bit of digging around?
He would want it on the slower side, yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Okay, the ground was also testing at Navan at the weekend, very testing. We're going to have a look at Colin Murphy's progressive mare Zanu. She won the Apples Jade Novice Hurdle at Proudstown Park. This was rattling up a hat-trick as well, Ruby. She's going from strength to strength, albeit she was an odds-on favourite here.
She was, but like, you go back, Gary, to her run last year in the Maiden Hurdle at Fairyhouse. She was fourth behind Cowabunga, William Money and Cocktail Devon on one of her early starts. She's good. She's a good jumper, fairness to her. Apples Jane was quite free in this race, named after Apples Jade, and she eventually settled for Jack Kennedy. Poetisa in the maroon colours down the inside, but Danny didn't jump particularly well. Brian Hayes took over going to the second last, and Zanouche quickened nicely down the hill and stayed strongly all the way to the line. There's no doubt about that, but the runner-up had kicked more hurdles out of the ground than she jumped, and it was a good performance. There was talk maybe of an Albert Bartlett for her, possibly doesn't have the speed to drop back to the 2 mile mares novice hurdle, but she's a progressive mare. She's going the right direction, but I couldn't say off this slowishly run 2.5 mile race on real testing ground did she strike me as an Albert Bartlett winner. I'm not sure. You?
As I say, I've put one up for the Albert Bartlett later on, so I am. No, it's not.
We'll eliminate her.
I won't be too shocked. It is one at a big price, which Zanouche still is, despite that win at Navan at the weekend. Jalan Dideri had a bit of a penalty kick with a big rival out of his way at Naas at the weekend, Ruby. We'll have a look back at it now. Did this really tell us anything new?
It didn't tell us anything, but I thought there was more spark in him than there was at Christmas when Frankie John beat him. Now, he was 10-1 on in a pretty ordinary contest where only 4 or 3 others actually ever even went with him. Good jump here at the 4th last hurdle. He was always in control, as you would expect, but he'd looked laboursome and cumbersome at Christmas when Frankie John out-battled him. I thought there was more life here, and I liked how he quickened from the second last. Now, I know the opposition are not in the calibre of what he'll face the next time he runs, but he was a very good bumper horse. He was third in the Cheltenham bumper to Jasmine DeVoe, and I thought there was more spark. I think he's improved and coming back to maybe the horse he once was. He's a big price. There was talk of him maybe too going to the Albert Bartlett, I think. If Josh was here, he'd tell us, he'd know. But yeah, I was definitely thought he was better there than he was at Christmas.
Yeah, he is a point-to-point winner. You'd imagine the Albert Bartlett could well be tailor-made for him. We're also going to have a look at the juvenile race at Naas on Sunday. It's been a good stepping stone to glory in the Fred Winter in the past, and a couple of the beaten horses and then came onto the radar of plenty of people if they weren't on it already. But Ruby, we're going to start with the winner quite rightly, I think, here, Highland Crystal. She's still unbeaten. How good is she?
She is, and she has won in the UK in the past, Gary. She won at Norton Avon on the Jordan Gainford, clattered into JJ Slevin at the first on Kilmeaden. Now, Saratoga down the inside absolutely flew the hurdle past the stands, but Highland Crystal and Kilmeaden pushed a little bit of a lead on the others, 4th last, 3rd last, that the others were a bit slow to close down. They got on their tails turning in, and Highland Crystal jumps right, and Jack, in fairness, kept going back into his left. Kilmeaden cries enough here to second last, and you're thinking Saratoga is coming to win. Mark starts to get after him. Highland Crystal poaches a bit of a gap, but then sort of slows going to the last, and she lets Saratoga back into it, and she jumps across in front of Saratoga. Saratoga lands the other side, and for a couple of strides here you're thinking, right, when Mark says go here, Saratoga has to go by. You're thinking there, he's going to go, he's going to win, he's going to go by, but he doesn't, and she starts the battle from this side. And even when Mark eventually gets a hold of Saratoga and gives him a backhander, I kind of thought there might be a bit more there. Personally, I know a lot of people are thinking that's a great result for Saratoga with the Fred Winter in mind, beaten 3 parts of a length. But I think they get to a point in the race where you should be winning, and he didn't. Could be wrong, but I would like to have saw him stronger at the line now.
Let's not forget the mare was giving him weight as well.
Yeah, he's 7. And that, I thought, looking at it math-wise, that probably would bring Saratoga somewhere in the low 120s.
These horses obviously don't have a mark in Ireland, so the chances are the first time they're going to see a handicap mark is when they're entered. Yeah,
Highland Crystal beat Tralee Girl at Newbury, who was rated 119. She beat her about 6.5 lengths, so you put Highland Crystal somewhere close-ish to 130. Roughly. She was given £7 to Saratoga and beat him 3 parts of a length. It's not hard to think that Saratoga's won 23-24 somewhere purely on that front.
Let's have a look at the betting for the handicap at Cheltenham and Saratoga. It's the Holgarten and Novum Wines Juvenile Handicap Hurdle, of course. Saratoga, joint favourite now, Winston Jr., who looks a huge player as well. He's been really eye-catching in what he's done on this side of the pond so far. Selma Davari at 12 to 1. Wouldn't expect her to run, would you?
I wouldn't either. She'd be more Triumph, I would have thought.
Anything stand out there further down the list? Munsif was the other one who caught a lot of eyes on the weekend.
Yeah, he ran okay. Winston Jr. would have to settle. I think he's kind of keen. He may have seen Maiden at Ascot, but he was very free at Cheltenham prior to that. Looks to have plenty of ability, but he would have to switch off a bit. No, nothing leaping out of me yet, Gary, but I haven't studied it in depth.
No, the weights obviously will shed a bit more light on proceedings there. Let's move on to the more established hurdlers then. We're going to check out a very progressive horse this season, Staffordshire Knott. He won again in the William Hill Boyne Hurdle at Navan on Sunday. He had been beaten in the Galmoy Hurdle at Gowran Park in his previous run by Home by the Lead, but he's finally starting to pay back that big price tag that he fetched from the Caldwell.
Yeah, he is eventually. He's getting the longevity to start repay it anyway. Maxim, better days ahead. I think the one that was disappointing here is in the Rob Cork colours, and that's Hidden Valley Lake. Not much happened in the race. The 6 of them went along together. Good jump at the third last. Kind of Staffordshire Knott put a bit of pressure on Maxim. All still thereabouts at the second last, and then just had to roll down the hill. It's hard to say they quickened because it didn't look like they went much faster to me, but Maxim, I thought here for a second, had Staffordshire Knott on the stretch. You'd have to be a bit disappointed with Hidden Valley Lake, who's the one falling out of the back of the shot. The ran seeing the white cap is going to depart at the last, but Staffordshire Knott, battle hardened and race fit. When he gets going here, going to the last hurdle with a good jump, he seals the deal. But to be honest, they kind of are what they are, aren't they? They're a bunch of grade 2 horses. Better days ahead, will probably go back chasing, but that's probably why you need these races. It's great to have them, and these three definitely put in it was a good contest to watch, but I'd be surprised if any of them were figuring in 4 weeks' time in Cheltenham. They're more likely to be in Fairyhouse and Irish
Easter
National
Monday.
In the Strawberry Hurdle, aren't they?
Yes, and better days ahead could well be Irish Grand National bound. He ran a good race, as Ruby said there as well. Over to Newbury in the big handicap there, it was Tutti Quanti first, the rest nowhere. Very strongly back beforehand, Ruby. Blitzed his field. What can we read into this? He's gone up to a mark of 151. Champion hurdle's been spoken about.
Yeah, I thought live, Gary, when he jumped and went from the start, he absolutely blitzed out the gate, up around the bend. He was doing 100 miles an hour, but Harry Cobden pulled it up then all the way down the back straight. And I think when you look at it versus Sober Glory's race, I saw Mick Fitz doing it on the other channel, it put it more into perspective. Sober Glory absolutely just picked up and ended up quite a distance in front of Tutti Quanti. No, Tutti Quanti carried 12 stone and is only a youngish horse. I think he's a horse with a huge future, but having initially thought on the day with the Champion Hurdle the way it is on slow ground, could he get in the mix? I wasn't so sure after watching the replay. I knew he blew a handicap apart, but it was an average edition of that particular contest. He was top weight with a mark of 131. You often get 150, 155, 160 hurdlers in that race. I'd say it was a substandard renewal. He blew it apart. He's a very good horse. I'd say he'll make a beautiful chaser in time, but I'm not sure on reflection that he's a champion hurdler.
OK, turning to the mares, Dino Blue is going to be bidding to win the Mrs. Paddy Power Mares Chase at Cheltenham for the second year in a row. Had a nice prep at Naas at the weekend. It was a bit of a solo. Did you see everything you wanted to see from her?
I did, but there's the ad on television in Ireland. Is it for Ron Seal Quick Dry and Paint, where it says it does exactly what it says on the tin? Yeah, that's Dino Blue. She just turns up and does exactly what you expect her to do. 2 mistakes cost her a 4-3, but she bounced out here by Innocence. Rock down, pings the first. She's not flamboyant. She just pops away. She's never flashy, even to watch her at home on the gallops. Now, she's very good at the next fence. Mark asks her a question and she stretches her lead, but she's just ultra consistent and reliable. And I think I know JP and Noreen have bred a couple of Gold Cup winners already, but I think if you're them watching this race and you're looking at these 3 mares, like, think of the future that they're going to have with the horses they're going to breed out of each of these 3 mares, even Bioluminescence, and you have Me in Stitches. But she was good at the last. I think she's rock solid. Quickens away there from the last like a little terrier. I think she's a very good mare, and she might appear later on, Gary, as one of my selections, but I think she is ultra consistent and reliable. And yeah, she did throw away a 4-3, but every horse can have one day where it makes a couple of mistakes.
She's very hard to fault, isn't she? And she's a strong favourite, 15 to 8 for that Mares Chase at the Cheltenham Festival. Spindlebury, who needs to rebound from her defeat in the Gold Cup at the Dublin Racing Festival, 7 to 2. Panic Attack 7, only by night 8, 10 to 1, bar those. Hollygrove Chacha was another winner at the weekend over at Warwick.
Yeah, that was over hurdle. She has an entry in that race as well, but she's definitely a better hurdler. Spindleberry's come out of the Irish Gold Cup in good form, but she'd have to recover. I thought this mare was impressive, and I know if she was mine, these are the obstacles she'd be jumping. Gavin Sheehan bounced her out. She was high at the first, better at the second, committed her at the third, and she was always stretching Jubilee and Alpha, who I think she may have usurped at the time of the off as favourite. Now, when Gavin has a look here, he doesn't see that in the next ride, Lorca Williams gives Jubilee Alpha a tap on the shoulder, and that was a big distress sign for her because she's a strong traveller who hasn't found massive amount in the past. But I love the way this mare in front, quicker from the second last. It's like she wants to eat up the ground. Now, as you say, she does get high off the ground. She has a fair knee action. Soft ground suits her. But I thought she was impressive, and she's scooting away from Jubilee Alpha at the back of the last. I know she was mine. She'd be running in the mare's hurdle. Definitely if there was an ease in the ground, and I thought that was a good, solid performance from a mare who seemed happier over hurdles than she had done over fences.
Very likeable type. Let's move on to the novice chasers now, and we're going to check out the favourite for the Arkle at the Cheltenham Festival, Lulamba. Well, say check him out. We're going to have a look at some stills of him and talk about him. Ruby, his performance in winning and beating some more seasoned campaigners in the Game Spirit Chase didn't please everyone. What was your view on it? Do you think that the kind of bit of roughhousing he got might actually stand to him?
I definitely think it'll stand to him, Gary. And there was times within the race that he didn't blow me away either. I thought he was best over his fences when he was almost getting in closer. He wasn't getting as high. I think when Nico asked him a couple of questions at various times, particularly late down the back straight, he got really high in the air. But it was only his third start in the race, and Exeter hardly counted that there were so many fences bypassed. But as regards ability and an engine, he has a hell of an engine, hasn't he? Probably unlucky not to win a Triumph. They got racing too soon and he got chinned by Poneros. He righted that wrong at Punchestown, and he's been faultless since. And ultimately, on reflection, looking at it, I thought he was very, very good, and I think he's the right favourite in the Arkle. What about you?
He's the right favourite, but when you've got a horse of the brilliance of Kopek de Board in there, I wouldn't be backing him at that price.
No.
6-4 currently, Kopek de Board, 11-4, and there's others in there who could have a say as well.
I think it'll be a cracking contest. Like, you're going to have Cargies who likes to go along. Irish Panther will be up on the pace as well. July Flower won't be too far off that. His 6 Mile Bridge lines up, he'll want to go forward too. And then you've got all the stayers like Romeo Coolio, Lulamba, and the horse we're going to look at next, Steel Ally, who probably has to improve a bit, but he does look like a strong stayer as well.
Yes, he beat 2 rivals in the Kingmaker Novice Chase at Warwick, Mirabad and Mambo number 5, whose jumping kind of went to pieces a bit down the back, didn't it?
It did, and I think if Ben Jones had it again, he'd do things a little differently. Mirabad, Steel Allies down the inside, Dylan Johnson. But when they get away from the stands here, Dylan switches outside Mirabad and Ben gets caught outside. But watch at this ditch. As Mirabad goes right, so does Steel Ally. Mambo number 5 wants to go left. And he's telling you he actually wants to go to his left, which he did at Kempton, so Ben knew that. Now, the next fence he makes a mistake, but when they turn down off the hill here, Ben Jones should be on the inside against the rail. He shouldn't be outside the other two, and he lands into the back of Steel Ally again, and then the race is gone on him. Mirabad gets a Steel Ally, Mambo number 5 makes another mistake, lands down on his nose at the back of this fence, or no, sorry, the next fence, and it's all over. But I did like the attitude of the winner. Now, Mirabad is well enough exposed, but Steel Ally a bit deep to the second last, but he grinds it out here, really neat and clever in front of the last fence when he got in, snaps them up, he doesn't want to touch it, and he sees it out well. But I think he adds a little bit to the Arkle in that he's stamina, he's a more last year's winner than a speedster. I don't know, is he quite as good as Django Pie, but he's that kind of horse. I think he'll be coming home, and with the mix that there is in that lineup between front runners and stayers, I think a lot could change in that Arkle late.
Wonder will this horse have a say potentially after winning his beginners last time? Salvatore Monday, Thurles last week. They left the hood off, which I think was the first time over fences had been left off, and it worked when he won a Grade 1 over hurdles last season. Does it make much difference?
I don't know. I mean, he's definitely looked better here than he has done in his 2 starts previously. He had a bit of company down to the first fence. Danny's in the middle, went with him. Yeah, he was grand, Gary. Jumps the second well, has a bit of a grab at the third fence then. Dr. Eggman and Fishery Lane were the only other 2 horses in the race who were even in single odds. Popped the last fence with a circuit to go. Had a good stretch on him by the time he got to the 4th last. You couldn't see him with the 3rd last and the 2nd lot. He was like a dot on the screen. But I think he's weak enough from here home. Now, I know the race is over and he's got a good gallop. He's well clear of his 2 stable companions. But when he pops the last, it was 2-2. Paul gives him a squeeze and a nudge there. Gary, I got sucked into fancying him after watching him in the Moscow Flyer last year. and I thought he was really good. He was a bit disappointing at Cheltenham. Obviously was much better at Aintree, but I do think he is a flat track horse at 2 miles. Whilst he might well run in the Arkle and experience would do him no harm, I think he adds to the pace, but I'd be surprised if he keeps going.
We're going back to Navan now, and we're going to have a look at the 10 Up Novice Chase. Great win here for 2-horse trainer Conor King, Ruby, with Oscar's brother. What a flag bearer for him in the early stages of his training career. I presume he does have ambitions to expand the operation. This fella's doing his bit for him, isn't he?
Oh, my God, he is. Testing conditions in Navan, booked out in front, jumped the first fence nicely, has a good look at it. The wall park's at the back, bypassed the second fence. Obviously, in the middle is Gold Dancer and Western Walk. He's good here, but watch the wall park at the back. Mark is in a squeeze, jams on, and I was going to say show jump. It doesn't even quite show jump it. But looking at Oscar's brother, and even watching him, we worked in Punchestown when he won earlier in the season. He's definitely a better horse with company. That was a bit stuttery, bit high here. Like, that's no need to be wasting that much energy there. And the wall park again, when he's asked a question, puts down. Now he stretches away down the back, Oscar's brother, but he was definitely with company more fluent the last time we watched him. Now I know it's testing ground. Again at that ditch, it's a bit stuttery. Gold Dancer and Western Walk tried to close down and misses the third last. Daniel has to set him, bout him down here to the second last now, and when he's forceful and positive on him, he definitely jumped better. Second and third fall in the hole in the wall park. He was never at the races, comes home really strongly. Now, the winner, there's no doubt the best horses won the race. The winner, or the runner-up, is the eye catcher. He dropped a pound by the Irish handicapper, and I think most people looking at him, looking at his hurdle rating of 155-ish, I think it is, are kind of thinking, well, he's choked in off that handicap mark. The couple of mistakes he made there will be a slight concern to me, that when you wanted him for a jump, he didn't give it. And I think he could well be well handicapped, but there might also be the small chance he mightn't be as good a chaser.
Yeah, it was a bit like the hurdle race we were talking about earlier on. The winner won well, but everyone was talking about the second horse.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you can see why. Apparently, the stewards on the day didn't see any need to inquire into his run. But do you think, having been dropped a pound, the British handicapper will view things differently with him? And we made the question earlier on was kind of getting at that. Do you think he will be below that 145 ceiling?
I honestly don't know. I mean, he was considerably better over fences, and I think the Irish handicapper had him very high for what he achieved over fences in Ireland before the other day, and he's come down a pound on it. It'll be interesting, but I'd like to have seen him. Mark Walsh didn't ask him massive questions there, and he didn't answer them. I'd be a lot happier with him if he'd actually jumped those 2 fences and finished where he finished, tell you the truth.
And the winner, 10 to 1, is he thereabouts for the Brand Advisory? Would he have claims if he pitched up? He's also entering the Grand National. He needs to run again to qualify for that.
Yeah, and it probably after running 3 miles there, but of course he has until Cheltenham time or just after to do that, so maybe he could. Would he be a player in the Brown Advisory? I think he could be. I think he's a horse with a nice future, and I can see why Connections bought him.
Let's move on to the open chases then. And Haiti Kallur had his warm-up for the Cheltenham Gold Cup at the weekend. It was, of course, due to be at Leopardstown, but I think things worked out pretty well for Connections.
I'd say it was a good call to go where they went, Gary. He was a bit sticky probably throughout the contest. Sean Bowen spoke about it afterwards. He looked to me, and I know a more competitive race definitely will suit him. He is one, when you look at that Gold Cup picture, he is one of only a select few that are guaranteed to get the trip. He's an Irish national winner, a Welsh national winner. He will, without doubt, get the trip. I kind of looking at him last weekend, thought maybe a set of cheap pieces might just give him that bit of zip he might need in the Gold Cup. That's probably been harsh on him, but he's a lively outsider. He'll run a good race, and he's guaranteed to stay, which is a question mark about a number of horses at the top of the Gold Cup market.
That's the thing. You call him an outsider there, and I thought he would have been a bigger price than he is. People seem to have really latched onto him. I think he'll run a big race, but to me, there's no value in him now.
No, there probably isn't any value in him now. But like Gallopin' the Champ, another way of thinking, Haiti Kallur, and probably Aya Maximus are the guaranteed stayers.
From Gold Cup horses to Hunter Chasers. We haven't spoken about them too much so far, and I gather you guys in the whole series haven't really touched on. In fairness, the Hunter Chase season is only really ramping up now. Panda Boy is the horse in question. We all know him well from his exploits as a handicapper previously. Martin Brazel still trains him, now runs for Brian Gleeson. He won at Naas on Saturday. How big a force could he be?
And I watched him winning at Thurles as well, Gary, when I was down there with Kevin a couple of Sundays ago. He's obviously runs in the Gleeson's colours now. Finney Maguire rode him at Thurles because John wasn't back in time, but John rode him at the weekend. Jumps out in front. He's a strong stayer. Hunter's Yarn and Rye Hill are the two that eventually get close to him. Now, he was very deliberate at that fence, but at the third last fence here in the double green, Hunter's Yarn is galloping over him, and even Rye Hill down the inside is going marginally better. But to be fair to Panda Boy, jumps the second last, and when he starts to get going up the hill in Naas here, he's always going to win. He's only doing enough in front on the John Gleeson. And I think, you know, when you watch the Fox Hunters, the race after the Gold Cup, they always seem to be going as fast as they're able, which is still a good bit slower than the Gold Cup, but it turns into a slog year in, year out. And I think this fella will stay, and I think he has to go on to anybody's short list now that he's qualified for the rest.
He's a smart horse, no question about that then. Panda Boy, live one for the Hunter Chase at the Cheltenham Festival. That concludes our look back. When you rejoin us, we'll be looking ahead to the weekend.
From Gold Cups to Grand Nationals and Derbies to Desert Orchid. The latest big races to the famous clashes of the past. Racing TV's YouTube channel has it all, with thousands of great videos to be enjoyed right now. Watch memorable feature shows from Racing TV's back catalogue again. Catch up on episodes of popular shows that you might have missed when shown on the channel. Enjoy insight and tips, or just sit back and enjoy watching thrilling replays of some of your favourite races from the last 20 years. Simply head to YouTube, search for Racing TV and hit subscribe. With Racing TV on YouTube, you'll never be far away from watching another great race.
It builds in the quiet. Behind the eyes, in the chest, in the air, until it breaks free. Then the roar, the thunder, the passion, the upset, the glory, the joy, the legend. Nothing feels like Cheltenham.
So a fantastic day's racing coming up here on Racing TV.
With Racing TV, you can watch live racing from 61 British and Irish racecourses. Watch all the action on your TV and your mobile devices.
Enjoy free access to over 100 race days and become a racehorse owner with a free share in our syndicate staff.
Go behind the scenes with the biggest stars of the sport and discover some new ones.
And all our profits go back into racing. So check out your Racing TV member benefits at racingtv.com or scan the QR code.
Right then, as promised, we're going to look ahead to the weekend. We're going to go to Ascot first of all for the Betfair Ascot Chase, where John Bonn is a red-hot favourite to dismiss his 5 rivals. 15 to 8 on these prices with Paddy Power Ruby. Do you expect him to go and win with the minimum of fuss? And if so, will he bowl up to the Ryanair on the back of that?
I think he'll do both, yeah. I do. I think Corbett's Cross won the race last year. He rocked on to the Gold Cup after it. He's 2 from 2 at a similar distance, Gary, a bit shorter maybe at entry, but I think he'll just follow Pick Dory and pick him off there somewhere between the last 2 fences. Easy as he likes. What do you think?
I think he'll win all right, yeah. 15 to 8 on is a bit short for me. I do think the step up in trip's going to be a big positive for him. What do you reckon?
I do too. In fairness to him, as he's getting a bit older. I mean, he's an incredible record. He's won 17 from 24 between 2 and 2-1, but he'd be the first athlete ever to get faster as he got older. And I do think going a bit further is definitely going to suit him now.
Let's go to Haydock now, the Rendlesham Hurdle at the weekend. Haydock subject to an inspection, of course, currently. Hopefully it will get the go-ahead. But Cabral de Mathan, the headline horse Ruby's the same price as John Bonn. Who would you rather back at those prices?
I double them, Gary. So I would. I don't see the opposition to both. Friendship is an improving horse, but he's a bit defined in the book. And Cabral de Mathan, I thought was really good at Cheltenham when he won the last day. He bolted in here, and he proves which horses need to show you that they actually handle Haydock on that ground. He's won there this year already. So yeah, I think he will win the Rendlesham, and be interesting to see where he goes then. What do you think?
Very talented horse. I don't know about the 3 miles, maybe in testing ground being right up his street.
Might be a question mark, maybe.
I think I'd rather see him do it before.
You'd wait in.
Yeah, I think so.
You'd take the money off John Bonner and not wait on the double, yeah?
No, I think I'd let him pass anyway at the weekend, that's for sure. Kingwell Hurdle at Wincanton. Sadly, no golden ace here. Alexa, again, similar sort of price, slightly bigger, 13 to 8 on to take care of his 3 rivals. Presumably you feel he needs to win comfortably to earn a place in the Champion Hurdle, do you? I
do. He has a setup that might suit him. Rubo is more than likely guaranteed to go. Secret Squirrel won't be that far away either. But I think Secret Squirrel's form from Windsor last year, when he beat Cabral de Matan, is looking fairly solid, Gary. And Alexi's rating is achieved through winning handicaps. Rubo, it's hard to say he's improving. Wouldn't be shocked. I think if I got the right vibes from Hughie Morrison about Secret Squirrel, I wouldn't be dead against him in that now.
Was there not talk about Secret Squirrel running against Constitution Hill, or did I get that wrong?
Could have been, but I tend to pick that up.
Maybe you could do both.
I turn that page over every morning in the paper.
Be a nice double to pull off anyway, wouldn't it, within the space of a week. Back to Gowran Park now. Big day for them on Saturday, Red Mills Day. There'll be a huge crowd there. They've given away a lot of tickets, the track and the sponsors. And the Red Mills Trial Hurdle has been used successfully en route to Champion Hurdle glory in the past, of course, by horses like Hardy Eustace. I don't think that's going to happen this time around. The Work Ahead, I think, is still in the Champion, isn't it?
He is still in the Champion. He's the only one. Yeah, man, I'd say might want it a little bit further. Gary would Work Ahead. I thought he got quite tired on his comeback run, Work Ahead. Be interesting to see how he gets on. Cowabunga, you haven't seen since he beat William Money in a Maiden Hurdle, and Stormheart this time last year looked like he would have a cracking chance in one of the handicaps at Cheltenham. Picked up an injury, won well at Christmas. He's probably the right favourite with race fitness on his side, and Florangori is a fair handicapper, but I wouldn't see any of those as potential horses for Cheltenham. Entry horses maybe.
Cowabunga, fascinating horse there on his return from a layoff, and Kellistoire, final qualifying run for a Cheltenham handicap might be interesting going forward.
Yeah, see how he gets on. Not really sure what kind of mark he'd have. Would he be 2 or 2.5? 2.5 mile handicap hurdle now. I don't even know if it has a name at Cheltenham anymore, does it?
It doesn't. I think it's in limbo at the moment, isn't it?
Off the place.
The art is formerly known as. Right then, the Red Mills Chase, all about Imperial Pass. Is he going to give Kopek de Board fans a boost?
A boost, yeah. An idea. Look, it doesn't look the strongest race. Safarur ran not that long ago. Classic Getaway was disappointing at Tramore in his last start, and Buddy won. Looks like he's having a prep for the Stairs Hurdle. That's what he's in, isn't it? Yeah, Imperial Pass should get the job done, Gary, but it doesn't look the strongest renewal of the Red Mills Chase. He was obviously good at Aintree last year, and I'd imagine at this point, with that being his first run, Aintree might look a more realistic target for him next.
OK, we'll see how he gets on Saturday under Paul Townends. Now then, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to unveil our Lucky 15s. We did this last year. I can't actually remember how we got on, but that's usually a sign that it didn't go well.
I got 2 and you got 3.
Go away. Is that what I thought? I got 4.
No one else is going to remember either, so we might as well go.
Get the tape out. OK, let's have a look at the 2026 picks. And Ruby has gone for Favre de Champdou. I've got him in there as well in the cross country at 4 to 1 currently. Panda Boy in the Hunter's Chase, Madgeborough in the Champion, and Dino Blue in the Mares. Just talk us through those. Yeah,
I just thought, like, with Stumptown guaranteed to be top weight in the cross country chase carrying, that could leave plenty of horses out of the handicap, Stumptown with his rating. So you're looking for horses that are going to have a fairly high rating. Now, I couldn't find Favre de Champdou's penalty for winning at Cheltenham the last day, so I'm not certain of his mark. But I do think he will be sufficiently below Stumptown, who will have 11.10, to give himself sort of 11.2-3, somewhere around there. But I do think you will have plenty of horses out of the handicap in the cross-country race, and you'll also have a couple of horses that won't even make the cut, because those that'll be over £15 out, of course, now can't run, which is Jerive de Lest being one of those who was second to Favre de Champdou the last day. Escaria, 10, Unanswered Prayer, Plasnet, Vital Island, horses like that would all miss the cut in this year's cross-country chase. So Favre de Champdou I'd like Panda Boy. Now, taking a bit of a shot here, Gary, because I wouldn't be strong on Hunter Chase form, but I have liked what I saw of Panda Boy at both Thurles and back at Naas. John Gleeson will ride him, and I do think he's the right type of horse for the race. He's only a 10-year-old. Not that long ago, he was running to a very high standard in good handicap chases. Madgeborough, to me, it's pretty obvious. I thought what he did at the DRF was spectacular. I thought he
reproduces that, he wins, doesn't he?
I think so. I thought the cheap pieces were the making of him. I just thought the concentration, there was no running around. He wasn't jumping to his left. He was straight. He was accurate. And I just think Dino Blue does exactly what it does in the tin. She's had a great prep through the season in the right races, and she's going there on a high. I have huge regard for Spindleberry. He's a very good mare, but she had a tough outing in the Irish Gold Cup, and you just wonder what that would have done to her esteem, I suppose, as much as anything else.
I wouldn't disagree with any of Ruby's picks, to be honest. Madra was very close to going into mine
yours
as well. Favre de Chanteau, Stumptown's a horse I love, but sooner or later, maybe there is going to be one to come along in that discipline and beat him. And Favre de Chanteau looked so good last time. As Ruby said, he should be getting a nice bit away from the top horse, and who knows, there might be a few other key players that don't make the gig. I just think Wendigo in the Brown Advisory, that race has opened up a little bit of late with events of the DRF in particular. He's a rock solid horse. I know it was a nothing race, he won it there the other day, but I think there'll be more of an accent on stamina in that Brown Advisory at Cheltenham than there was in the Cotto Star at Kempton over Christmas, where he was only really getting going late on. And he did run well at the festival over hurdles last year too. He was better than the bare form. So I expect him to be thereabouts in the Brown Advisory. Bambino Fever and the mares, maximum respect for Old School Outlaw. He's a very good mare and hacked up at Ferryhouse the other day. But Bambino Fever, I thought, just jumped a little bit high when she took her on hurdles debut at Naas. Hopefully she'll be a bit slicker at the festival. She's had her confidence boosting win in the meantime, and I think she might get a revenge there in the Mares Novice. And then my final one, this is the one from left field, which might look as though it takes a bit of explaining, but I actually don't think it does take a huge amount of explaining. They Call Me Hugo won very well in a week race on his first start for Ollie Murphy, and then he went to Cheltenham at the December meeting for a graded novice hurdle there. And to be honest, I thought he was very unlucky not to win that day. He was patiently ridden in a race that wasn't run at a breakneck gallop. Put in some good late work. He was hampered at a crucial stage as well, and I think that was the difference between. Yeah, I think that was the difference between winning and losing. So I think there's plenty more to come from him, and I'd give him a pass for his defeat at Windsor after that as well. Again, he made a mistake at the last, and I think perhaps Connections in hindsight would have made a bit more use of him. But I think he'll be in the mix in the Albert Barley. He could easily be unbeaten in his last 3 runs, and he's priced up like he's a no-hoper. So he's my...
There's a fair chance, Gary, if he wins, there's plenty of people watching this show who'll want you back on him more often than I might.
Well, I don't know about that. Anyway, at least at 50 to 1, hopefully there isn't too much downside for They Call Me Hugo on the Albert Bartlett Novice Hurdle. And just like that, we're done. Thank you very much. We're reconvening at Gowran Park, I think, on Saturday.
Yeah, with a bit of luck. See, they put the bumper in the middle of the card, so maybe there's a doubt about the chases, Gary. We'll get off early, will we?
Hopefully not. I'd love to see the chases myself. Thanks to Ruby for his help this week. Thanks to Josh as well for all his input at the start. Road to Cheltenham back with Lydia in 2 weeks' time. Thanks to you for watching. Bye-bye.
Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.